Hello. Today we're going to be learning Likkutei Torah, Daf Samech. This is Parshas Chukas. So today we're beginning the Maimer Alkein Yamru. The pasuk reads as a pasuk from this week's Parsha: Alkein Yamru HaMoslim ba'u Cheshbon b'Gamer Bale Bamas Arnain. Which means concerning this, the parablers, those who say parables, come from Cheshbon, and the masters of high places come from Arnain. So the Gemara in Bitzrem comments on this and does a translation of this and says, what is the muslim? Who are the muslim? That doesn't mean those who make parables, but it's read homiletically as those who rule over their mushal, over their inclinations. And ba'u Cheshbon, what does it mean that they come to this? What is literally read in the pasuk is the place that's called Cheshbon. That they ba'u v'nachshov cheshbon shel olam. That they come or they go and they calculate the cheshbonos of the world. So we have to understand what the how this Maimer Chazal makes sense. What is it? What is the meaning of it? What is the context? And to understand that, we're also going to tackle another Maimer Chazal, which says that kol ha'ina amen yesh me'rabba m'varach b'chol keichei keirim lo gazer dinei shel ayin sham. That anybody that says amen yesh me'rabba with all of his might tears up a decree of 70 years. So again, we want to understand just simply what the meaning of this is, right? What is the deeper meaning of this phrase? So to understand that, we first have to understand why it is that God sent the neshama down into the body. That we know that the reason the neshama is here is yaridah l'sayach aliyah. That even though the neshama is definitely going down in the fact that it's in a human body, this is for a higher purpose. And the third thing we have to understand is why it is that the neshama has to go down, especially because the neshama had this profound experience before it went down of being in front of God, the standing in front of the Eibishter. And what is it about this world that is so necessary and so important for the neshama itself that the neshama is forced to take this journey downwards into what is objectively and at the surface a lower state of being. So to understand all this, we're first going to discuss what the idea of mamala and seged. So we know the mamala is the divine energy that is nislabish, that is closed within the worlds, and the definition of mamala is that it's catered level by level and caters within each level to what is receiving, so that it gives to each world exactly that which it needs. And so to understand this mechanism of mamala being able to allocate energy precisely to cater towards the needs of each level of creation, we're gonna examine this through the lens of the Sefer Yetzirah, which says that this follows the model of Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. So we're going to do a translation of this Sefer Yetzirah, and through that it's going to provide us with a perspective and an understanding of mamala. So Olam refers to all the worlds, right? It refers to all created beings, including Daim Tzemei Chai and Medaber. Nefesh we would then translate as the life or the vitality that goes into those created beings and fills them in this mamala way. And the connection between the two, as we're going to explore later, is the shana. So let's examine this more, right? So this idea of the olam, right, of the world, and the concept that there is gradations of this, right, and that each part of each world is going to receive exactly what it needs, has to do with the quality of the keli, right? As we see that there's in our world there's the daim tzemei chai medaber, and the reason that even despite the fact that they all receive chayas from Malakos, why is it that a plant has the ability to grow, whereas a rock can't. And the animal has the ability to be sentient, while the plant can't. And the human being has the ability to speak, which the animal can't do. This has to do with the refinement of the keli. This has to do with the fact that the physical object that is a rock is not capable of receiving the energy that would be required to allow for growth to happen. And based on the quality of the keli, based on the quality of the chaymer, based on the quality of the material, that is going to define the quality of the energy that comes into them. And following this model is all of the worlds. All the worlds and all the hechalos of all the worlds all follow this pattern, where the quality of the world and the quality of the particular part of the world is going to define how much Elokus is able to come in and how much vitality it can receive. And this then becomes the nefesh, right? So the olam is the keli, and the nefesh is the ar, and the nefesh is going to be limited and catered towards the boundaries put upon it by the olam. And the gradations that we find are all based upon this pattern. That the nefesh, as it is in a higher world, is going to be a higher quality art, and the nefesh, as it is in a lower world, is going to be a lower quality art, till all the way down to this physical world, where we say that there's no blade of grass that does not have a mazel that is hitting it and telling it to grow. And the reason that the grass has this particular mazel is that grass has the precise physical makeup required to receive that level of chayas and no more. And this is true of all of Seder Shalshos. It all follows this pattern, right? That mazel, that malach that is hitting the blade of grass, has its boss, which that malach is. The physical makeup of that mazel is going to define how much chayas and ar that mazel gets, and the malach that's giving chayas to that mazel, it also follows in the same pattern, and this pattern follows throughout all of Mamala. Now, what is the shana component? So, in order to understand the shana component, we have to we bring up the phrase that God in His goodness renews the act of creation every day. And we have to understand what it means that God renews. Right? His mechadesh, right? His chadshos, means a novelty, means something new. What new thing is God providing on a daily basis to creation? Theoretically, He made it once and it's done. But we know that the nature of life, the way God made it, is a pattern of ratzeh v'shuv. That the vitality and the life that comes down into the world, it takes on this form of ratzeh v'shuv, where on the one hand it's being nispashet into the keli, into the thing that's giving it life. In this case, the Alter Rebbe used the example of a human being, that the chayas infuses the human body and provides it with life and vitality, and then it then wants to leave. It has this urge, it has this nature that it wants to go back, and it's constantly going back and forth between ratzeh, which means wanting to be up on high, and shuv, which means doing its job of providing vitality. And with every breath that we take, we are acting out, so to speak, that pattern of the ar coming in and going out. And so too, this pattern is followed by all of creation. All of creation follows this ratzeh v'shuv pattern. And this is why we say that the chayas, that the actual malachim, the chayas, take on this ratzeh v'shuv pattern, and this goes at the highest level. This is referred to in the time as mati v'lei mati, which means not actually traveling back and forth between two distances, but turning and not turning, is the phrase used by Yitzchayim. So the beings in very high worlds, he doesn't explain it so much here, but it's explained elsewhere. So their conflict is not as extreme between the gashmi, so to speak, between the creation that they have to invest in and the elokus that they are coming from. So because the conflict is not as extreme, it's not a full ratzeh v'shuv. Instead, it's a slight variance of turning and not turning. this pattern, this Rasa V'Shuv pattern, is what we mean when we say Hischadshos, and what we mean when we say Mechadish B'chol Yom Tov and Ma'aseh Bereshis. Because at every second, the life, the vitality, is choosing to go back into the world, and it's leaving and coming back, and leaving and coming back, and so there's a constant renewal because there's a constant fresh investment, and this is this constant Rasa V'Shuv, and this is what it means when we say Shana, because the source and the creation of time is based on this pattern, that life is going in and life is going out. That sequence of events, the fact that these events are able to be sequential, the fact that we can call them events, is evidence of the fact that there is some degree of time. So the whole Rasa V'Shuv is what we observe as the passage of time is really an observation of a Likus coming and going and coming and going throughout the universe, and this Rasa V'Shuv then creates time, and the degree of time that there's going to be, the way the time is going to appear, is going to depend on the madrigas, to the point that we have the time that appears for us, which is this passage of time that is with seconds and hours and days and years. Now, based on this, we have to then address what exactly the word Olam means. So now that we understand the tension between these two worlds, let's between the nefesh and the Olam, let's return to Olam. So what we say is that the chayos that is within the body, the neshama within the guf, is hidden within the guf, and the guf then functions as a concealing entity that hides the chayos that it receives. And this is al derech mashal. The Alter provides this analogy of a king who is sitting in his room, and he's completely blocked off. He's completely hidden from anybody else that can interact with him, and he's in this absolute concealment, this state of absolute concealment, of an absolute lack of revelation. And so too this is with the Ar and Chayas Alaki of our insight, that when it comes into the world, it is like this king, that you have this divine spark that once it enters the world to provide it with vitality, is completely and entirely hidden without any degree of revelation, just like the neshama, this established in the guf, where it's concealed without any, there's no observable evidence of the neshama, because the neshama is totally invested in the body in a way that makes it completely concealed. And this is al derech Ma'amer Chazal, a Gemara in Brachas that says that it draws several analogies between the soul, or the human, and God, and one of them is that just like God sees but cannot be seen, so too the neshama sees and interacts without being observed. And this is where we get the word Olam, because the word Olam is Malashon Helam, that the function of the Olam is to hide. The function of the Olam is to cover, to conceal, and this this concealment is going to be entirely based on the needs of the level that it's interacting with. So at the higher world, the hell is not going to be as extreme, and at the lower worlds, it's going to be more extreme until we come to our physical world, where we have actual physical gashmias that appears as though it has no, it is not in any way subjugated to God. Whereas the source of these worlds is the that the malachim that make these worlds, the galgalim, as the Rambam explains, the galgalim are in a state of bittul to the Eibishter, whereas the elements that the galgalim make, which is eish ruach mayim afer, are not, so to speak, subjugated to the Eibishter. They don't necessarily naturally listen to him. And this is all and this is all based on this idea of Helen and the idea of the Olam. And this is why when we describe Mashiach, when we describe the goal of Mashiach, it often has to do with removing that concealment, removing that hiddenness. Now, based on this Olam Shana Nefesh is the formula for Mamala. Seviv, on the other hand, does not follow that formula whatsoever. Because when it comes to Seviv, we say Ani Avayalesh Nisi. I am God and I have not changed. Meaning that Seviv is everywhere equally, like a sphere, like an eagle. But it's important to remember that it's not that Seviv is unchanged because in some way Seviv does not interact with the world. So Seviv remains clean and pure because it has not interacted. But rather, Seviv is literally and practically in the world. It's practically in all the worlds. However, it's not nislabish in them. Right? It doesn't take on a hislapshos. It's kaddish umuvdol. Right? The identity of Seviv is that while it is involved in the world, while it is within the world, it is still kaddish umuvdol. And this kaddish umuvdol is why we can find that when it comes to Mamala, there are madrigas, masha'enki. When it comes to Seviv, there are not. And the one of the indicators of this is the idea of muhul ma'id. Right, the pasuk we say gadol havaya muhul ma'id l'lasa in chekar. Right, that the muhul ma'id, the idea that there can be a praise of God and that He is very praised, is a reference to the fact that there are different states of being, that there are different qualities of creation, and that each creation has a different perception of Him, which produces a different degree of praise. And this that we say, it says Melech Mushuv Mufayar Ade'ad. And this Ade'ad again is a reference to the fact that the way that we praise God at a physical level is not the same as the praise that a higher being would praise Him. So there's this everlasting variations of praise of Him that has to do with the infinite variations of created beings. But when it comes to Seviv, we come to the end of the pasuk. Ludulasa in cheker, that to your greatness, to your true greatness, that Seviv is Shemay Hagadol, that to your true greatness there is no cheker, there's no accounting, there's no reckoning, because the idea that we can praise God with these infinite variations is part and parcel of acknowledging that there are created beings and that the created beings matter. But from the perspective of Seviv Udulasa in Cheker, I cannot make the distinction. There's right, God's greatness comes as one thing, and this is the idea of Shemei Rabbah, that the great name of God, the Shemei Hagadol, is not clothed within the world in a way that allows for this distinction. Now, the main function of Teru Mitzvahs is to unite Seviv and Mamala, and to say it in other words, to reveal within Mamala the Seviv perspective. That what we're aiming for is that when there's a revelation of Seviv, in other words, when there's a revelation of Kaddish Muvdol or Udlasa in Cheker, what is being taught to the world is that there is no that the Helen does not exist. And so if you're looking at Mamala from a Seviv perspective, there is no Helen in the first place. It's all part of Elikus, and therefore the Helen does not exist. And the reason that we descend down here, despite the fact that before we went down, the neshama was in this very high place, in this very close place that was very close to God, that was still a Mamala perspective, where the neshama was saying that I used to be on a high place and now I'm in a low place. But from the perspective of Seviv, there is no distinction between those two places. So the very fact that we can ask the question, why does the neshama come down here when it used to be in such a high place, is an indication that the neshama's perspective there was fundamentally flawed and was not grasping the full meaning and the full appreciation of what creation could be. And this is the reason that mitzvahs are broken up into asay and les asay. The idea of mitzvahs asay is to draw down holiness into the world, and the mitzvahs les asay are to remove evil, to separate the evil from the good, and particularly iskafia sitra achra, so that it does not have any hold over kedusha. Now, how is it that this works? What is the meaning of this of kaz iskafia sitra achra? So we know that the way that God made the world is just like there are heichalos, just like there are chambers of holiness, and just like there's a structure of creation that is holy, so too there is a structure of creation that is not holy. There is heichalos mikechas hatuma that receive vitality from evil. And when a person who's a man is a bal b'chira, man has free will, and so when a person chooses to place upon himself and to accept upon himself the yoke of heaven, he is not just accepting Torah mitzvahs, but he is choosing to receive his vitality, even in Gashmias, from kedusha, from holiness. That when a person when a person acts l'shem shamayim, this allows all of his Gashmias to be vitalized and brought into existence through the R of kedusha. Masha'inki, in somebody who chooses to indulge in his taivas, that the real decision that he's making is to receive vitality from klipa. Now, within klipa there are two. There's klipas nega and shalosh klipas meis. Klipas nega is taivas heter, that a person who chooses to engage in taivas heter is choosing choosing evil, because there's only a small spark of good that is within creation, and he is opting for the evil part of it. And for sure, shalosh klipas meis, that a person who chooses to interact by indulging in taivas iser, whether midarais or midarabanan, he is choosing at that moment to receive vitality from shalosh klipas meis. And a person is a bal b'chira. He has the free will to choose between those two things. And so, but when we push aside our machshavas zaras, right? When we engage in iskafia, when we practice iskafia, and we opt out of the heichalos of klipa, and we opt to receive our vitality from kedusha, then it's talik yikar the kutsha brichu b'kuhu almin. Why? Because the heichalos of kedusha are called almin. The heichalos of kedusha are olam, which, from our translation of the word olam from before, is malashon helam. That even the heichalos of kedusha are malim on elokus. There is this concealment in the fact that they are heichalos. And so, when a person practices iskafia, meaning that when a person recognizes the perceived value of the helam, and then chooses to not engage in it, and he chooses to not engage in any kind of including taivas heter, chooses not to engage in taivas heter. In that moment, he's practicing iskafia. He is pushing away his engagement with klipa, and the particular example of that of machshavas zaras, that a person has these machshavas zaras, and he is choosing to push them away, and he's also choosing to not engage in the helam, and through this it's talik yikar the kutsha brichu, because what is being revealed is not just the R of mamala, meaning it's not just the R de kedusha, the heichal de kedusha, which we said was olam malashon helam. He's engaging and he's revealing seviv. That which is why it's istalik. It is revealed within all the worlds, within all the heichalos, and it completely invalidates the whole idea of the Helen. And this is why the word istalik is Malashon Hisreimus. Now, why is it that iskafia has to happen particularly down here? So the Alter Rebbe offers very briefly a mashal of a person. If I wanted to lift up, if I wanted to lift something up, if I want to lift up a house, I would have to lift up from the bottom. I'd have to raise the bottom in order to raise the whole thing. So I have to engage with the, so to speak, the lowest parts of creation. That when the taiva is broken, right? When klipa is rejected, what I'm doing is I am tearing away the klipa perception, which is the perception of Helen, and I'm revealing Seviv, and this revelation is happening in all the worlds, and so the Gilui of Seviv is one, as we said before, which negates the whole perception of Helen, and this has to happen particularly through man. That Yaakov Chaval Nachalasei, that just like a rope has a connection above and below, so too when a person inspires his own nitzitz elokי through rejecting the temptations of the world, this reveals this is the istalik yikar tekutcha brichu b'kul. So now we can understand the Maimer Chazal kol aina amen yesh me'raba v'chol kochei karen like gazer dinai shel ayin sham. So Shmei Rabba, the great name of God, the main Shmei Rabba, the Shmei Rabba is Seviv, because we know that the names of the Eibishter are an expression of his midas, an expression of his qualities, and each name matches up to a different quality, and all of that is linked to Mamala. What are we highlighting when we say Shmei HaGadol? We are referring to the name of God that is independent of creation, as we say that the Eibishter does exist, that Seviv is a name of God, but it's a name of God that exists prior to creation, independent of creation. And when we say Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, we know that bracha is Malashon Hamshacha, that we are when we say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba, we are drawing Shmei Rabba into the world. Mevarach, we are drawing Shmei Rabba into all the worlds, into all three worlds, and this is what we are revealing to those worlds, is that the Helen that appears real is in fact completely not real. That the Olam that appears real is completely not real. And with this we are Karen the Gazardina Shel Ayin Shana. We tear up the 70-year decree. What is this 70-year decree? What is this a reference to? So we know that there's the seven midas of kedusha, there's the seven traits of holiness, and each one of them has included within it all the other 10 spheres. So really, 7 is 70. And just like there is the 70, just like there's the 7, which is 70 midas of kedusha, so too there is the 7, which is 70 midas of the nefesh bahamas. And on this we say say this, that your years are going to be are going to be 70 years. That there is a gezerah, there's a decree that based on the natural order of things, you are supposed to live 70 years trapped within the 7, which is 70 midas of nefesh bahamas. That is the natural order of things, and this is the gezerah. But when we say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba, we are defying that gezerah, we are defying the natural order of creation, we're defying the mala, and we are providing it with this new and more real and more correct perspective, that through iskafia, sitrafa, right, through Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba, this tears up the gezerah, this eradicates this perspective of the Ayin Shana. Now we do have a Sagrayim that goes through this Olam Shana Nefesh and how exactly it is that Amen Yeshmei Rabba addresses this. And very briefly, it's many Maimarim are referenced in different areas of the Zohar, but very briefly what the Alter Rebbe explains is that Amen Yeshmei Rabba reaches the source of Shana, reaches the source of these of Olam Shana Nefesh, and that's what allows Amen Yeshmei Rabba to change the perspective. But now back to the fnim of the Maimer. This can now allow us to re-examine the quote from our pasuk that said that the Moshe Ba'u Cheshbon and Chazal explained that who are the Moshelim? They are those who control their Yitzhahara and calculate the Cheshbon shel Olam. So now the Moshelim Yitzra means iskafia, meaning that a person controls his desires. And he controls his desires in every way. Meaning that he closes his eyes to bad and to looking at things that he shouldn't. And in his action, he is that a person opts to refine himself in every way and in every aspect of his life. And this is this reveals Seviv within the structure of the world. And this is why it says that a person particularly it is the person who controls his Yetzer who is Nechshav Cheshbon shel Olam. That the Olam is Malashon Helam, and Nechshav HaCheshbon is the idea that you are calculating and trying to understand the world and understand the Cheshbon behind the Tachas Yirida, right? That the person who controls his Yitzhahara is the person who is tapping into the Cheshbon behind the Olam, right? The calculation behind why there was a Helam in the first place. Now another pirush of Cheshbon shel Olam is that the depth of Helam is the Helam of Olam Hazeh, which is the darkest darkness. It is the thickest darkness. And just like with in a house, if on the top floor of the house you only need a small candle to light up the room, but when you are in the basement, when you're in the cellar, you need a very, very strong candle. You need a very bright light to cut through very dense or very thick darkness. So too, al derech mashal, we find ourselves in the darkest darkness that there is, right? The Olam Hazeh Hagashmi, and what we need is this very highest light that the Ner Mitzvah of Torah are, and we need iskafia. We need to be able to bring our Seviv, particularly down here, through our Amen Yeshmei Rabba, through right. We need to bring the perspective of Shmei Rabba into the world, and this is what it means that we are Nechshav Cheshbon shel Olam. That based on the fact that we appreciate the depths of the darkness that we're in, and therefore we appreciate that our response has to be an increase of light, and the greatest light particularly, which is that of Torah and Mitzvah.